And we're live.
This trade deadline is weighing on me.
Oh, yeah? I don't know what that looks all about.
Sorry, I should have said it. Trade deadline weighing on me. Anyway, good afternoon, good morning. What?
Who are you going to trade, GM LeBron over there?
Apparently no one.
Yeah, apparently no one. I'm stuck with you.
Yeah, you and I are going to be stuck together for life. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, whatever time it is for you right now. Just know that you are locked in until the point with
Skip
and the King. You guys know where to find us by now. Thank you guys for watching us on YouTube. Wait till we get to our 400 subscriber. That is yours. Could be any one of you. Could be you. Could be anybody. But thank you guys for your support over the last couple of years. And
make sure you go down there and click subscribe.
That's how we do it. You click subscribe, you click like, you leave a comment, you let us know it's yours. It comes from a smoke-free, pet-free zone. It's locked up in a Ziploc bag. So, and we're glad to UPS it out or FedEx or whatever they're using right now. Nowadays, I know we're all locked down from the pandemic. But let's get down into this. Kenyon, thank you.
Hello.
Coming on the show. How are you doing, my brother?
Doing great. I'm doing great. It was the last couple hours of that trade deadline were pretty crazy.
Did it weigh in on you?
Yeah.
not quite as much, not to the same extent. But yeah, so I guess let's just get right into it and talk about some of the moves that the Raptors made. So I guess
that's what I want to talk about, man.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, okay, so apparently a friend of mine told me today, apparently the Raptors got rid of the dead anchor that was weighing them down this past season. After that.
Drake?
Oh, please, can we get rid of him? But the Raptors got rid of Goran Dragic, the ambassador. Anyway, the Raptors got rid of Goran Dragic today. In return, they got Drew Eubanks. Bye. See you later.
Hello, goodbye.
And I know, right? He ain't even crossing the border. And they also obtained Thaddeus Young. So, Kenyon, I ask you, what do you think about this trade for your Toronto Raptors?
Don't forget the picks, though. The picks are pretty important in that trade.
Yeah, the Raptors gave up a first-round pick. It's going to suck for them because right now they're going to sit currently at 32nd when it comes to picking. But Kenyon, what did you think about this?
Right. So I think to further break down the trade, we also got a $5 million trade exception, which will roll over into next year, which I think is good. I know everyone is calling it that we just got rid of the pick, but I call it a pick swap. And to me, it tells me a little bit about what the Raptors are already thinking. When they draft these guys, they know, like, for example, Bobby Webster himself said, we've been tracking Scottie Barnes since he was in high school. So I think that they have already looked at this draft and said, okay, there's a marginal difference between the talent that you can get at, let's say, we're going to be picking between the 20th and the 22nd pick to the pick that we got, which is Detroit's, which is literally the first pick in the second round. So the other thing too is that getting a second round pick, you can pay them the minimum. So you just got a pick, the whatever. $5 mil
Yeah.
For yeah, so you got $5 million, you got a pick, which ends up being a cheaper pick. I trust our scouting department, so let's get into Thaddeus Young. I think Thaddeus Young provides anything. First of all, anything provides more than what we had from Goran Dragic, because clearly he didn't want to play here. Clearly the situation didn't work. We did try it. It didn't work. I think he was a little bit slow, and for whatever reason, it just on court / off court or whatever, he enjoyed Miami more than play. So I mean, it is what it is. But for that, I think we get Thad Young. I actually mentioned it to a few people offline like months ago, but Thad Young is a serviceable rotation player, which is, and he's better than most people on our bench currently outside of Chris Boucher, right? So, you can, so you effectively have improved the bench. You get a smart, high basketball IQ player. He plays defense. He can definitely pass, and he can pass out of the pick and roll really well. And I think it was last year he was definitely in the conversation for Sixth Man of the Year through a large portion of last year. And then the other thing is we don't have a lot of good screeners on this team, and we haven't since Bar Gasol left. So he can screen, and he does well out of screens too. If I talk a little bit about his offensive skill set, he basically he scores at a decent clip inside the 3-point arc. He shoots at about, I think it's about 57.8%, which, that's pretty good. So, those long twos are actually getting closer, so take out a few of the jump shots that Precious makes from outside of 3 feet, and those are actually now going in. So now instead of, beating teams by, a couple points, 3 points going down to the wire, you're now, making a little bit more of a, of a run there. And I think the other thing too is he's been relatively healthy over the past few years. And I mean, overall, his 3-point shot is around, almost 1/3 of his attempts he gets. So I think he's a serviceable guy.
What's he shooting on threes? I didn't even look at that yet.
Yeah, so through 2017 to 2020, it's 34.9%.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
He keeps defenses honest, right? Yeah. There's some guys you leave him, you go like that. This guy, you actually have to at least respect the shot, I think. And I think we talk about bench help. I know we all want or thought what we would be able to get, but at least you get someone who you could put out for 12 to 18 minutes a night. And then the last couple things before I get really quickly into some quick downsides is he's 80th percentile in steals year over year. That's, the man can play defense, and what do we like on this team? We like defense. So to me, I think that's huge. We know that Bobby and Masai tend to be prudent with their moves unless they are absolutely certain. They needed to do something with the Dragic, other than, I think, in my opinion, it's if you don't trade him, then I would have just let him sit in Miami, because he's not going to get a chance to go where he wants to go, in my opinion, if I want to be petty. So, but they didn't do that. They're not as petty as I am. He went to the Spurs. He went to, I guess, his team of greater ambitions. And and from there we go.
He's getting bought out. He's getting bought out by the Spurs, though.
Most likely, probably, unless they're petty like me.
Because they're going to send him to Dallas. Now, Kenyon, based on what you just said, sorry, I'm going to go off script here. I got to ask you a quick question before I ask Skip. What do you think the Raptors should have done?
I'll say what I wanted them to do. So I wanted to get Pirtle, which is funny because people say Thad Young can't shoot free throws. Yeah, so he was on my top of my list, and I also like Turner. I like Turner a tier below Pirtle for certain reasons. Offensively, I think that if you like how things are going, if you want people like Scotty Barnes to have more touches rather than less touches, Turner was not the guy. Pirtle would have been more of the guy, and Pirtle gives that screen, and he's almost all NBA defense. Yeah,
that sounds great. Now, Skip, based on the Raptors' move today, what Masai and Bobby did, you know they're calculated. They're very well. They know what they're doing. How do you think this fits for the Toronto Raptors? Getting Thaddeus Young and bye Eubanks, bye. How do you think this fits into the Toronto Raptors going forward? Currently sitting in 6th place, 4 games out of the first in the Eastern Conference.
Well, I think on the court, it's a perfect fit. It's a great fit, and that's why they went for it. For all the reasons that you just said. He's a playmaking big. He's 6'8". Everybody on this team is 6'8", exactly 6'8". He's 6'8". He's a playmaking big. You said he could shoot a little bit. He could play some good defense. Like, that's exactly what we need on this team, is someone who can do all those things, and will slide right. It's not so much filling a void because we have a million of those guys already, but it's sliding right into the style that the Raptors play, right? It's like there were all these names being floated out there, like Yusuf Nurkic or even Kristaps Porzingis, like an hour before the deadline. And it's like, yeah, these guys can't come in and play Raptors basketball. These guys come in and they shoot and they slack on defense. I feel like you bring in a guy like Thaddeus Young, he can slide right into the Raptors system. Apparently he's like OG's mentor. He's like all these guys' mentors. He really fits in with the culture of the team, probably. I mean, I don't know him personally, but on paper, you kind of see that fitting together really well. And okay, so the only issue is, here's the thing, right? So we traded Kyle Lowry a year ago, or six months ago, or whatever. We traded Kyle Lowry to get younger. The whole idea was we're going to move out this 35-year-old aging player and build up with a team that is where the oldest player is like 28 years old. We're going to rebuild, retool. We're going to get younger. And then you go out and trade a first-round pick for a 33-year-old. Like, that part doesn't totally add up to me. And I understand this team's a little bit ahead of schedule. I understand why on paper this was the move to upgrade this roster this year, because Thad Young does fit and he does make them probably a little bit better. But does he make them a title contender? Like, no. Before the season, we were laughing like the Raptors aren't going to win a title. So why are you making this kind of really short-term move, right? I'd understand it if he was a couple years younger, if he had another year in his contract. Now, obviously, the Raptors went out there and they tried to shop Dragic and the pick, and they tried to get that perfect player who was just a bit younger, but they couldn't find that guy that matched up with their roster, that had the right term, the right qualities that they were looking for. So they went out and they did this trade. And I get it. But then you kind of walk it back and you're like, wait a minute. Goran Dragic wasn't playing this season. Thad Young wasn't playing this season. They were probably both going to get bought out after the trade deadline. So why don't you just go sign Thad Young like in 2 weeks? Like, what's to prevent you from doing that, right? As opposed to giving up a first-round pick to go out and get him. And
yes. So, but the problem with that is that they were so close to the tax line.
That is true.
You know, you're going over the tax then to sign Thad Young.
Well, that would only work if Goran Dragic gave up $1 million in his buyout, which I don't know if he's going to do.
Yeah, which again, you know, I think he's enjoying Miami too much, and
yeah. So that is a fair point.
Campaigning.
That is totally a fair point. And I do get the fit on the team. It's kind of like, it reminds me a little bit of that year we went out and got PJ Tucker at the deadline, and it was like, but I just think this team's a little behind that team in terms of their growth curve, right? Because this is our first maybe year of seeing this core together. I mean, it's hard to say. Anyway, the other thing is just one more thing. I don't have too much more to say, but the other thing that worries me is Thad Young. This guy, okay, someone pointed out on Twitter, this guy was in Uncut Gems.
Yes,
that movie was set 10 years ago. That movie was set 10 years ago. This man is old. This man came into the league a year after Kyle Lowry did. He's been around for 15 years. Yeah. So, and then he hasn't played in a year. So, like, do we really know if he hasn't played in a year. I should say 6 months. He's barely played in like 6 months. So, like, is he in perfect game shape? Is he going to be like the Thad Young of like even 2 or 3 years ago? Because that's, if he's dropped off a little bit, then maybe he's a step too slow to keep up with this team. And then suddenly you're trading a first round pick for a guy who maybe isn't what you need right now. Anyway, so I'm happy that we got Thad Young. I'm much more happy. I'm happy to see Thad Young in the lineup rather than Goran Dragic, but I'm really iffy about trading, either about that pick swap or that trade or whatever, or that pick concession, whatever you want to call it. I'm just a little iffy about that. Anyway, Brian, go on.
Okay. Y'all talked a minute about this. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. Goran Dragic played 5 games.
Yeah.
Started 3. He's an asset that's not being utilized. Okay? Very high contract. Get him out of here. You know what? Toronto takes Thaddeus Young. What does Toronto really need him for? Nothing. He's going to leave at the end of the season, right?
Exactly.
No point in buying him out. He's done. He's dusted. He's like a Paul Millsap. We'll get into that later. But he's done. He's dusted, right? Get him out of here.
Wait, are you talking about Thad Young or Dragic?
I'm talking
I
about
was going to say, sounds like you're talking about Weekend at Bernie's.
Thaddeus Young coming to Toronto.
Yeah.
Thaddeus Young coming to Toronto. Okay,
Well, I don't
Why
think he
the-
is washed. I'm just saying we don't know for sure if he isn't.
he's washed. The Raptors do not need him. The Raptors have a great core 4 plus Gary Trent right now. Time for Toronto to build a bench, which is what they're looking at, and let them go on, because you guys know I love Bench Mob 2.0, and I've said it. But I think this is a good trade for the Raptors to unload a contract. You ain't got to worry about this next year. You ain't got to pay no tax, like you alluded to, Kenyon. You ain't got to worry about all of that. Okay? So I think this does turn out very well for the Toronto Raptors. It might suck that you give up a first round pick for next year, but let's be honest, next year's picks, the draft choices, ain't that good. I'll say it. And the Raptors already have a young team, like you alluded to, Skip, which they are very young.
Well,
So-
here's the thing. I don't actually think Thad Young is washed. I just think he's an older player, and we haven't seen him play. And
he
he's
last
expiring.
played on the 3rd, so I will say that he has played this. He has
Yeah,
played
not-
in this calendar year.
Okay, I mean, I know he's been sitting out for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know how. It hasn't been as long as Dragic. I know that.
Okay, whatever. I don't care. He's washed. He's done. Okay? But that was great, guys. So, can we address the elephant in the room that happened today, that 600-pound silverback gorilla? Wow, guys. We heard it was coming. Nobody believed it. But James Harden for Ben Simmons? Kenyon, can I ask you, what do you think about that trade?
So it's tough because you look at, okay, from the net standpoint, they got a lot of assets for James, and I think that this was the right move because clearly, for various amounts of reasons, whether
didn't
it
wanna
be
be
because he didn't want to be there, and whenever James doesn't want to be there, if you watch his play closely, how he plays defense shows. So he starts giving up on plays because he can't play defense. He turned that around from a couple years ago where he was one of the, he was clown more than DeMar in terms of defense, right? I remember there was this one where it was him at a kids camp and he was kind of, and kids were going past him and
Can he
people
play
meme
off?
that.
Can he play off-ball defense though? Like I've seen him play post defense. I don't know if he could play.
No,
off.
all he wants is a freaking foul.
Yeah,
That's it.
Well,
That's all he wants.
We're talking on
exactly.
defense.
Travel.
We're talking on defense.
So,
Brad.
but yeah, on defense, I think if you look at it, it's just one of those things where I think he needed to be out of there, and I think he was. I mean, it's weird because he's been operating without an agent or something like that. But I think that from the Nets' perspective, they did the right thing. They got Simmons. I don't know how good Simmons is. I don't know where his headspace is. I don't think he knows where his headspace is. But I think from
Kardashian curse.
that too. But I think, which is why I didn't want Tristan Thompson here. But in terms of getting, among other reasons, in terms of them getting someone, I think it works for Ben Simmons, and I think it works for the Sixers because they have someone who can take pressure off of KD to play defense. I think they have another ball handler, although it is interesting because Kyrie is best with the ball in his hands. I'm just think it's best for Ben Simmons because he doesn't have to worry about shooting the ball in the last 4 minutes of a game because he could say, y'all two, go take the ball. I'm going to get out of the way, let you do your thing.
Okay, Skip, how do you feel about that trade, my friend? Do you think that changes the landscape of the Eastern Conference for your Toronto Raptors?
As a Raptors fan, I'm freaking
Since
depressed.
they're currently 4.5 games back from the number one spot in the Eastern Conference.
As a Raptors fan, I'm freaking depressed because as long as the Nets and the Sixers were a mess, like, I mean, no one expected the Raptors to really compete in the East this year. But I started looking around, like when the Nets and the Sixers, I mean, the Sixers weren't a total mess, but when the Nets were falling apart and the Sixers didn't have Simmons, and you start looking around, you're like, Chicago's not that scary. Miami, kind of scary. Like we could knock some people off here. But if the Nets and Sixers have both fixed their problems, they're probably the best two teams in the East, along with Milwaukee. And there is kind of that separation now where it's not going to be the top 8 teams separated by 5 games. It's going to be, you're going to have your first tier and then your second tier and then your third tier. So that's, I'm not happy about it as a Raptors fan. It's probably best for those two organizations. I mean, it's actually a really good trade for the Nets if you really break it down. It's just not necessarily a win now move for the Nets as much as having Kevin Durant would make. You would think you would be making with Kevin Durant on your team, but it's they get younger, they get lots of talent back, they get future picks. I mean, I don't know what the end game is, like if they're gonna try and retool around Kyrie and KD, or like, I mean, I don't think they do this, but you could also just in the offseason go like full rebuild or something. And build around Simmons, and that would be kind of interesting. But yeah, I think for what the Nets position, I think they did really well for themselves, and yeah.
Okay, can I just say one thing? Just one little thing. They traded whiners instead of winners. Both of those teams.
Oh yeah, someone said this is the most villainous trade in NBA history, and I think that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Whiners for winners. Those guys do not have the mentality to win. I think the Nets as an organization did win. I don't think anybody as a player really won. But guys, since we're constrained for time, I would like to shoot out some trades that happened today because it's been a hellacious day.
Go for it.
Okay, so just give me one word, one sentence answers. Serge Ibaka to go into the Bucks. Is he going to win another chip? Speaking of the Raptors, go on. Kenyon, you first.
Good move. Very good move.
For who?
For the Bucks.
Great. Skip?
Serge is washed. He might win a chip, but it won't be because of him. I think some of the other teams made out better in that deal. Maybe I kind of like the Pistons getting a shot at Bagley.
Yeah, that's a good move. That's a good move. Another trade that happened today, happened recently. CJ McCollum. I know you Raptors fans, you guys have a feeling for Lowry and DeRozan, and it broke your heart when DeRozan got traded. This kind of has the same feels of CJ and Dame splitting up, but CJ going to the Pelicans. What do you guys think about that? Along with Larry Nance, Tony Snell, and the Blazers getting Josh Hart, our Canadian boy, Alexander Walker.
Nope. He went to Utah.
What do you think about that?
No, he went
so,
to.
Yeah.
He did go to the Blazers first, but yeah, there were more trades after that.
True.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I wanted Nickeil Alexander-Walker because I wanted to start the tampering for Shea.
You might get fined.
But I mean, I like it from the Pelicans standpoint as an attempt to get into the play-in, but I like it, and I do not know what the heck the Blazers are doing, but I do like that they moved off of CJ. It was time. They got some good pieces.
Yeah, Skip, what do you think about that trade?
So first time I saw it, I hated it for both teams. I didn't know what the hell the Pelicans were doing buying when they were 10 games under 500, and I didn't really get what the hell the Blazers were doing either. I can kind of see the window now with the Pelicans, but I still think they're trying to, I don't know what the term is. They're trying to thread a needle that's going to be impossible to thread, where Zion's healthy and he wants to be there and they're winning. But I get it a little more from that standpoint now. But still, just kind of a weird trade for both teams.
Okay, now speaking of Alexander Walker and the Blazers acquired Joe Ingles. Pretty cool. But they did.
He's hurt. He's out for the year.
I was going to say,
I know.
Kyrie.
But they did have to give Alexander Walker to the Jazz, which I think turns out pretty well for the Jazz. What do you guys think, Kenyon?
Great move. He fits too well, which ruins my tampering.
Great move for the Jazz, you mean?
Yeah. So you're not getting fined. Skip, what do you think about that trade?
Well, I don't really get it for the Blazers again. I don't know what the hell the Blazers are doing. I guess they get a second rounder out of it. I don't even think Alexander Walker's that good, but sure.
It's Canadian. We gotta love him.
Yeah, I mean the Jazz make out pretty well in that trade.
Okay, guys, there was another one. There's a new king in Sacktown. Monte Sabonis, the son of Arvydas Sabonis. Okay, he got traded from the Pacers, which we all were aware that he would possibly be traded. He got traded with Jeremy Lamb, Justin Holiday, another Holiday. Shoot, that's 2 Holidays that got traded today. Okay, but instead the Pacers got, instead Tyrese Halliburton went to the Pacers. Buddy Hield, Skip, we spoke about this on our pre-trade deadline, but you talked about it. And then the Kardashian curse, Tristan Thompson, another Canadian going through. What do you think about this trade, Kenyon?
From the Pacers standpoint, I think I love it. I love it. I love it. I think that they chose the right big guy to get or to keep rather. I think that Turner was the right person to choose. From Sacramento, I am going to reserve judgment for now. But I do think that I'm happy that they tried something different, which is always good for them. Stauskas.
Skip, where do you rate this trade, man? Because this was a wild trade.
This was a weird one. So just like the last one, I was like, what the hell is a bad team doing going out and buying a player? And everyone killed the Kings for trading Halliburton in that trade. And then Sabonis went out and he won his first game with the Kings, and everyone kind of flipped and was like, oh, it kind of works.
He dominated.
I do think it's interesting. The Kings made another trade today. I don't remember the names exactly, but I think what they might be doing is they might just be kind of cleaning house and trying to retool, because it's never worked. Whatever they were doing wasn't working. Hadn't been working for years. They just tried to do something completely new, completely different.
Yeah.
And you can kind of say it was a bad trade in terms of giving up a younger asset when you're a bad team. But if it somehow resets their team and their culture, like, maybe it's worth it in the end. I don't know.
In the words of Shaquille O'Neal,
For a weird
the Sacramento Queens.
Yeah.
I mean, he could say that now because he doesn't own the team anymore. Sold his stake recently.
Yeah, of course. And Blondie's out too. Okay, but guys, there was another one that came right down to the deadline. I believe I saw it at 2:57 p.m. when the trade deadline was at 3:00. Oh my goodness, this one kind of got me. KP, Kristaps Porzingis, leaving Dallas after we thought he could be a great fit there. You know, like having that European team, we thought he could be great, but he got shipped out to the Washington Wizards for Spencer Dinwiddie, which that guy is very underrated. I don't care what you say. And then Davis Bertans, I don't like that guy. He looks like a guy where if I had a daughter and he lived next door, I would not want him there. But he is a good ball player. He is a good ball player. I'll give him that. So the Wizards got Kristaps Porzingis. And Kenyon, what do you think about that trade?
So first of all, I'll just start off by talking about Mr. Crypto himself. I think he's a good player.
He's his own kryptonite.
Yeah, that too. But I think he's a little weird sometimes, and it turns off his teammates. So I think that the Wizards clearly just needed to move off from that. I think it's a good move. I don't think that they're trying to win this year, but I think it's a move to try to entice Bradley Beal to stay. So we'll see.
Skip,
For Dallas, I don't know what the hell they're doing, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody. I don't even think they know what they're doing. Skip, what do you think about that trade?
I mean, it's a bad trade for both sides in the sense that all the players in the trade were overpaid and kind of bad. But I think Dallas makes that a little worse because like they're not really getting off money and they're moving Kristaps. Like if you're gonna move Kristaps, at least get off money. Davis Bertans is a bad defensive player. Spencer Dinwiddie, I mean, if Spencer Dinwiddie can be good Spencer Dinwiddie, then I kind of get it for Dallas. But like that's a big gamble to take when you're moving off Kristaps, who's always hurt. And I mean, he is good in his role. He's just not the player that they need him to be. So I don't know. I don't really like it for anybody, but I just kind of don't get it for Dallas.
Well, guys, I think this was great. We're at a time constraint right now. So, do you guys have any final thoughts on the Raptors trade? Since we are a Raptors-based show, Kenyon, give me a one-word answer. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Oh, you went the third way. Okay, Skip. What do you think?
Final thought is, Kenyon mentioned this a little bit, but the fact that the Raptors cleared a little bit of cap space means that they can sign somebody, whether it's a bio guy or Justin Champagnie, or I'd like to see them bring back DJ Wilson. That was kind of what I always figured.
I knew you were going there.
I always figured that that's what they were going to be doing in the at the trade deadline with that roster spot once they move Dragic. So if they can bring in a DJ Wilson and he can actually develop into a good player, or somebody, or bring in a bio candidate, I don't know who can actually play off the bench, then this will be a successful trade deadline, even though we're sad about trading down in the draft a little bit.
Oh,
yeah.
Bye-bye, Bob Eubanks. I mean, Drew Eubanks. Right? Bye-bye. Bye-bye. This ain't Family Feud no more. We're keeping it real here up in Toronto. Guys, this has been a great conversation. Let's see what happens for the Raptors. They're currently on a 7-game win streak, which nobody saw. They're currently 4.5 games.
Hopefully 8 after tonight against Houston.
Yep. They're about 4.5 games out of the first spot. So let's see what happens for this Raptors, because they've gone without Dragic for so long. So it's like, who cares? Why do we even bother with it? But this has been a great conversation, guys. So before we get out of here, guys, Kenyon, it's been amazing talking to you as usual.
Thank you for having me.
No problem, man. Anytime you want to come on the show, we're more than willing. We love having you on. We wish you nothing but the best with your endeavor that you're going on. And I cannot wait to say those 2 letters when I address your name. Wait. You guys, Skip, I love seeing your beautiful face. You guys go down there, click subscribe, click like, leave a comment. 400. That's yours. So, guys, I guess we can sign out. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, ladies and gentlemen. And
peace.